Hey YouTube, call me Bella back again. I'm taking a quick break from cleaning. Please excuse my hair. I got hot while I was cleaning, so I just kind of pulled it up any kind of way. But I noticed something about my hair, and I thought to myself, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's a perfect example of something I've been thinking lately. I've seen a number of videos on people asking questions about your hair texture changing, or asking if your hair texture changes, and people's various responses. People have said, no, your hair texture doesn't change. People have said, yes, that it does. People have said, yes and no, and that usually it's like some type of chemical breakdown or damage that causes your hair texture to change. And I have kind of like my own theory about it, and I don't agree with any of the statements that I just made in terms of what other people think about hair texture. My personal take on hair texture is that as your hair grows, it elongates. So your texture doesn't so much change, but the weight of the curl pulls whatever texture you have longer, kind of like it stretches it basically. And if your hair is like a coil and then the coil gets stretched, it has a different look. Think about a slinky or anything that like coils up. When you stretch it, it has a different look. As we all know, I mean, I hope I'm not saying things that everybody already knows. It's just that I've seen so many responses and questions about this. I'm thinking, well, maybe everybody doesn't know this. But I wanted to show my hair because this is like a perfect example. If you see on the end here, my hair has this tight little coil, right? But then as it goes up the strand of hair, I'm not pulling it or anything. I'm just holding it out there. You see that it gets looser. And is it getting looser because my texture is changing? I don't think so. I think it's getting looser because my hair is getting longer and these ends are weighing my hair down. As a matter of fact, if I take this coil and I pull it out, this is turned a funny kind of way. My coils kind of changed position too. But anyway, if I pull this out, it all kind of, looks the same. Same with this here. Again, I have this tiny little coil, and then if I pull the coil out, it's all still my hair texture. You know what I'm saying? It's just that because it's gotten a certain length to it, it gets pulled out, and it can't, it just can't sustain that tight of a coil forever. I know everybody has different textures of hair and different types of curls and all of that, but I think that ultimately, no matter what hair type you have, your hair will take on a different look. It won't be a different texture, but it'll be a different look because your coils, curls, kinks, whatever it is, have more weight to them, and ultimately they will stretch whatever curl pattern you have naturally. As a matter of fact, I have an area like, I think it might be on this side. I'm not sure, but on one side of my head, when I cut my hair this summer, I overcut one side of my hair. I think it is this side. And on my sides here, the whole thing, used to kind of elongate like this. This is kind of a different texture, so the ends don't have the little coils on them, but in any event, they all used to kind of elongate like this. Well, where I accidentally cut too much, that hair springs back up into my head now. Like, sometimes, I have to, if I have to, or I want to stretch my sides to give a different look to my hairstyle or whatever. And this side, I actually have to like really like go up in there and kind of like pull out because it tucks up and away under the rest of the hair, because again, it doesn't have enough weight to pull itself down like the rest of my hair does anymore. I cut too much off, and now it like springs back into these little coils. It doesn't mean that because I cut my hair wrong, that part of my hair changed texture. It just means that, you know, now the coil is light enough to where it can still kind of like sit on its own, and it's not going to elongate at all because it's just not heavy enough. I think the two things that contribute to the heaviness of the hair are moisturization. When your hair is really well moisturized, it seems like it makes a big difference. And then also just the length. I mean, you know, when I think about it conceptually, I feel like if our hair didn't drop, I mean, if our hair could sustain the shape of itself forever, it would grow straight up to the sky. I mean, this is like a little, you know, a little coil, and it sticks straight out. And when I first cut my hair, all my hair stuck straight out of my head, and it would just keep doing that. And I'd end up with like either a big giant afro or a big high top that went, you know, straight up to the sun. And eventually the weight of the hair weighs it down, and when it drops, it pulls down on the hair, and so, you know, it elongates it, which gives it a different look. I don't think it gives it a different texture, just a different look. The only other thing about texture that I have ever heard about that I believe in is scab hair. I haven't heard a lot about it lately, but I haven't been on a lot of like freshly BC channels either, and so maybe people still talk about scab hair, but scab hair essentially, or supposedly, is the first 2 inches or so, 2 inches or less of hair that grows in after UBC. And that's because it's hair that was actually physically in contact with chemical relaxers, or it's hair that was underneath your scalp that was affected by chemicals that were on your head. And so when the hair first comes in, even though it's actually your texture, it feels a lot different, which is why I think people are so adverse to new growth when they have relaxers. Like if they actually had the feeling, gosh, I wish there was another word for texture in terms of how hair feels, but if their hair felt like how their natural hair will ultimately actually feel when it first grew in, maybe they wouldn't be so like, oh my God, you know, I have new growth, I need to, you know, take care of this, it's so hard, or it's so this, or it's so that, you know, and whatever negative comments people make about their new growth when they're relaxed. I think that's why it feels like that, because the hair that grows in right after UBC is not great. I mean, it's just not the same. Now, it's shaped the same, and it looks, the texture of it is the same, but the look of it is not the same. I mean, when I first BC'd, I probably went a good 6 to 8 months before my hair started looking really good. And by good, I mean looking moisturized, feeling soft, looking like itself. It was just as dry as a bone. It was like parched. And, you know, my hair naturally loves water. All I have to do is spray a little bit on there, and it's wet, and it absorbs water really well. It retains water really well. And when I first BC'd, it was not doing that. I mean, it just, I had to put tons and tons of stuff on it just to get it to feel decent, and it still never felt great. I mean, it was months before my hair started feeling good. You know, at first I didn't notice. I thought my hair felt okay, but in retrospect, it was just horrible compared to how my hair ultimately felt after, you know, maybe 5 or 6 inches of hair grew in. So I think that what you have at about 5 or 6 inches is truly representative of what you're going to have in terms of texture. I think you can get your hair really well moisturized, which kind of gives it an even better look. And then as your hair grows, whatever texture you have elongates, and I think that gives it its next look. And then I would imagine as your hair gets really, really long, that's kind of like the ultimate look, how it will finally look. But I don't think that those are texture changes so much as they are changes in terms of, you know, care, length, and just overall health of the hair. So that's my take on it. Hopefully it, you know, helps somebody, or, you know, if you have any questions or comments about, you know, what you think in terms of texture changing, I'd appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys soon. And thank you so much for my little cleaning break. All right, ciao.